Now, let's now go to where the devils are. Shares. So, there are two types of shares. We have ordinary and preference. So when we say share, what all of you have right now is ordinary shares. What does it mean to have ordinary shares? Number one, you can vote. You can vote. And 1 share, 1 vote. 10 shares, 10 votes. Does that make sense? Because you all started together, you all started with 1 million share capital. 1 million divided by 50 should be 200, if I'm not wrong. Is it 20 or 200? 200. So what that means is everybody has 200 shares at the beginning. And you know 200 ratio 200 ratio 200 is 1:1, abi? So everybody has 1 vote. Number 2, still under ordinary shares. Ordinary shares gives you the power to benefit from the profit of the company. So what it means is this, of course, based on your number of shares. So that is why you hear the word dividend. Your company made a profit of 100 million naira at the end of the year, and you want to share. Now, remember, everybody has how many shares? 200. Abi? So, based on that, before you go, you now say, the total number of shares we have in this company is how many? 1 million. So you come, 100 million divided by 1 million, that will be how many? Maybe 10 or 100. 100. So, each share gets 100 naira dividend. Does that make sense? So, the man that has 200 shares will get what? 100 times 200. If this man has 500 shares, he will get what? 100 times, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So, the same way, if the company makes a loss, ordinary shares shares from the loss. That way you don't get paid dividend. It's not like they come and take money from you, because people are like, when I say that, they're like, me will not get money. You the company. No, it just means you won't get dividend. Does that make sense? Number 3, you get to maintain same number of ordinary shares when new shares are created. We had 1 million share capital before, abi? We now went and said we want to increase to 10 million. Isn't it? By increasing to 10 million, you will think that my percentage of shares should now reduce because there are more shares. True or false? Because think it this way, the more we dilute the share, my share number is supposed to keep reducing. But no. When you have ordinary shares, when you dilute the shares, when we move the company from 1 million to 10 million, he still has his 200 shares untouched. Okay, this company had 1 million shares before. We now realize we want to start making good profits. If we are going to make good profit, what happens? We need to increase our share capital. When we increase our share capital for the company, my number of shares that I had before does not change. Who then owns the increase depends on the company, because remember that this is not a new company anymore. So it is at this point you can have 9 million shares ungiven if you need to bring in people. You can have it as unused. You can decide to even have 100 million shares unused. Yes, the same way, those of you that have ordinary shares can decide to take from the new shares. Legally acceptable. Unused shares belong to nobody. Nobody cannot take money that belongs to somebody. That's what I'm trying to say. Because if the shares are not allocated, nobody owns it. So who are you giving the money to? Okay. You also get to share in the assets should the company ever liquidate. So if that company ever closes down, because you have ordinary shares, you have assets, you own part of the assets of that company. Does that make sense? So let's say your company had like 10 private jets, 3 helicopters, all of those things. Once they say this company don't close, and they are selling those things, you own part of the money when they sell it. Based on your shares, don't say you just go there and ask. Mama Samson said, I own. Do you understand this question? You had come like now, you started. All of you now, you'll be here hustling. Then Solomon will just travel and leave you people. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, so Coco, you didn't even know he's still alive. You sure you didn't even know he was still part of your company. Then he now heard one day that Exitonics is now worth $10 billion. Then he now comes back and says, I'm a shareholder here, what do you do? He's a shareholder. Whatever dividend that has ever been shared that you have not given him his own, you must give him. That's the law. Why did you not kick him out when he was not active? You let him know that you have not been active. It's in your... When your article of association comes, take time to read it. There are clauses of inactivity that can make you kick people out. And you need to let them know that, Oga, I have to kick you out to as we can kick buckets. Ish. No, once you are doing calculations for the dividend, you don't calculate for the unused shares because it belongs to nobody. Good? Awesome. You see why we take this class for night? The reason I like money. Good question. When we make more profits, does that mean the shares of the company is increasing? No. It only means the value of the company is increasing, which means the value of the share is increasing. So let me put it this way. If right now your company makes 1 million naira at the end of this year, you may say your share is 1 million, 1 naira for 1 share. If by next year you make 100 million naira, your single share may now be worth 10 naira, 100 naira for 1 share. So it is the value of the share that would increase, not the number of shares. The only way to increase number of shares is through CAC in Nigeria. Yes. So the same way, it's not like you will go to CAC, you just go through your lawyer. You just tell your lawyer, we want to increase our share capital. They will go back and file. It's like registering the company from scratch. The only difference is you are going to have the 2 documents, your former one and your new one, but you are not getting a new certificate. It's still the same certificate. Yeah. The share will increase. So, that is that. Number 2, we said preference shares. So, first, preference shares, not really scam. You use it on people who don't understand the law. Preference shares are, I'm trying to look for the right word to use. They are preference. They are more enticing, but they don't own the company. Does that make any sense? The offer is juicy, but they don't own the company. And many a time, they don't know. So when we start explaining, you understand. Number 1, under preference shares, we have what you call cumulative preference shares. So if you come and I say, hey, I want to give you shares in our company, blah, 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 blah. You don't know, you're an investor. I'm like, when I'm not giving you the paper, I now wrote, I am going to, so we have decided, what's the name, please? Abdul. We have decided to give Mr. Abdul, because he's investing in us 100 million naira, we are giving him a cumulative preference shares of 80% of the company. What does it mean? Well, a minimum need 80% of the company. Awesome, guys, I have won. This is what it means. when it is time to pay dividend, we can decide not to pay him. That's what the law says. Cumulative is we can tell him we are accumulating it for him. It is legal. Is there any legal way you can ask? So is there a legal way for him to request for the cumulative? No. It is we that we say we are ready to pay him. We will just be showing him the figure. This is what we now owe you. This is what we now owe you. Olowo but kò sówó. He has no gain and he doesn't know. That's why you will hear stories like the details. The debt is in the details. When you see a legal document, you will notice they write the words, but there are those tiny ones they write in the small. So how would they write it? Because if they write cumulative preference shares, you will read it. You will say no now. So they will write, we have given Abdul 80% shares in the company. They will now write a small number 1 on top. When you go and check the meaning of that one, it is cumulative preference shares. Now business is getting interesting, Abi. So these are the scam. Next, number 2, non-cumulative. Non-cumulative. So non-cumulative, this one gives power to the who now? To the preference shareholder. But now, of course, you see all of these things have strict. In non-cumulative, the company cannot accumulate it for them. They must be given once there is dividend. However, they only get that dividend if the company announces that they are giving dividend. So they can decide not to announce it and still share. Then the non-cumulative does not get anything. It was not announced according to the law. Since it was not announced, they don't need to share. So take for instance, people like PLCs, those are the ones that have stipulated time to share. Those ones can't hide under this. They are too big to hide. Because I think even they shout, the beginners man announce next week now. They are too big. But when you are just coming up, these are places you hide. That's why you start hearing at times, you hear stories, if you read news, you hear stories of, the company did not announce dividend and yet they gave out. Have you heard stories like that? That's what they are hiding under. Because they have collected some people's money that is huge. And the name they pay dividend, Nito. So they will just, like, why announce? If we didn't announce, the law says we don't need to pay you. So why are we sharing a testimony we don't need to share? Let's just keep quiet. And us stay with. Sorry? The company did not announce, that's what the law says. Not if somebody announced. Did the company announce? Does it have a negative? So our question is, this cumulative and non-cumulative, is there a negative effect when you want to go to PLC? No. They are just legal loopholes. There is no... They are just legal loopholes, but just that dividend you did not pay out, don't eat it. So why is it that companies do that? I have calculated that, this dividend that we pay to this man of preference shares is like 100 billion or 100 million. Why would I give you 100 million when I can use it to trade? So maybe all the rest of us, all our money is like 40 million. Only him is 100, but we are just ordinary shares. So they share our own money to us. Put his money back to continue to trade. And tell him we are accumulating 1 billion. So anytime he comes, he wants to shout, Oga, see the record. See what you signed. Your money is here. That's all. The day he gets tired, I'm no more doing, come and sell your shares. Yes. No. You see why stockbrokers are awesome people? Relax, now we are not paying you dividend. Wait. So that is where some companies are demonic. When you now say you want to sell your preference shares, they will tell you they don't want preference shares, they want to buy it as ordinary shares. Because preference shares are more expensive to buy than ordinary shares. Remember that preference shares look enticing. So this is the advantage of preference shares. If the company runs at a loss, we'll still get there. There are some things they must still pay you because you're a preferential shareholder. But they can choose to not announce when they will pay you. Not it like company work? No, if you are selling that preference shares, what most people do that are wise, don't sell back to the company, they will cheat you. Go and look for another idiot to sell it to. Now, because you don't want to sell to an idiot that will fight you, sell it through a stockbroker. So what most did you hear a question? Can I as an individual, so because I'm angry with Solomon, I want to sell my shares, can I go and sell the shares without telling the company? It depends on what we agreed. For some companies, they have the agreement when you are buying their shares that anytime you want to sell your shares, they have first refusal offer. You must first offer it to them. If they say no, before you can sell to outsiders. Good question. When we now decide to move into PLC, those cumulative that we have been accumulating, what happens? Actually accumulate low. We keep accumulating. So what they did not pay you as limited, we should come and pay you as, like, no, think about it. Then you are the one, will you pay? The upside is, if your own stockbroker is good, they can put in clauses quick. So some can write a clause of, you must pay me after a maximum of 5 years. So you can see it, pretend you didn't see it, now also put a term under, must be paid in 5 years, within 5 years. So if the company lawyer did not see it, one pound. After 5 years, John go mature. And that is why, if you follow, it happens more abroad, it doesn't happen too much in Nigeria yet. You will see a company that you felt was doing well. 7 years, 8 years, they'll say they are bankrupt. Have you heard of stories like that? That is what they have done. They noticed later that, there is cumulative, we are meant to pay you after 8 years, so they bankrupt 7 years. And close the company down. No, because it is preferential, the government will pay you the values of your share, not what you are owed. No, they will take it, when that company is going bankrupt, they will now say, okay, we are selling this, we are selling this, selling this. So because they are preferential, they get paid first before ordinary. But the owner is saved. No, we are not saying we will pay you what we owe you, we are saying we will pay you what we have. It's not what they owe you, they pay. I only have, so I'm owing you 10 million. You came to my house to fight, I only have pot of soup. What will you take? And the meat, maybe there's no meat served. As a company, if a company goes bankrupt, can the owner start another company? As the company is bankrupting, they have started like 10 others. They don't even wait for it to. What's their name? What's the owner of WeWork? Watch their story. Maybe you watch it during your break. Before WeWork was worth over, I think, $13 billion. Before he finished bankrupting, he started a new company. All the investors that gave him money, legally, it has gone. Oti law, sheo law, o law, you're gonna. It's legal. You need, remember what we started with at the beginning. Wealth is a behavior. You don't need to be extra smart. Is it making sense now? It's just about knowing the loopholes. The guy that is smart will be like, no, I have read it. I saw shares. Preference shares. I am preferential. Oh, you don't know what they wrote at the back? I know, ain't shame me. Ogbole. Number 3, participative preference shares. So what does this mean? Anytime a company decides to share profits in the form of dividend, when the profit has been shared based on agreed arrangement, whatever amount that remains belong to these people. This one is sweet, Abi. If, for example, we made 10 million naira profit, so let's take, for example, we have 10 million naira profit, we agreed, this profit is to be shared at maybe 2 naira for every share you have. We now did that 2 naira for every share, 2 naira for... No, we agreed. You agree on what you want to give. So they have agreed that, if we make this kind of profit, we are going to give out 2 naira for every share. So they made 10 million naira, for example, and they did their calculation. After they did all their calculation, we'll still get to our calculation is done. They probably realized that with the calculation, they will only give out 6 million. After they pay out that 6 million, you see the remaining 4 million. Those with participative preference shares own it. Only them. The thing is confusing your head, like how? How do you get participative preference shares? You bought it. So that is more expensive. So if I am selling my normal shares for 11 naira, I can sell my participative preference shares for 10 naira or 100 naira per share. So that gives them that privilege. Now, how do companies cheat people? They share the whole money. You say owners of company dey demonic at times. Because now what do you say remain, we go share. What if you talk say nothing remain? It's because of the way they told you, like, no, you see, as a participating preference shareholder, when we make profit, we are suspecting that we are going to make a profit of 20 million. Although we told the ordinary shareholders that we are only going to make 5 million, which means you have an opportunity to get 15 million extra. You are like, All you need to do is agree to buy participative preference shares. See the math, we have done it, we cannot be wrong. You look at the math, it makes sense. Then they now do it. When they do it, they now tell you, in between they sold more shares. So, yes, we made 20 million, but the whole 20 million was shared. See, put this in your mind. Let me say this, maybe I didn't say it before. One of the basic reasons you sell shares is to raise money. Let that be settled. So, the reason you are telling all these lies is you need more money. Oh yeah? No, good question. How do you get to keep money for the expansion of your company after paying out dividends? Good question. We don't, if you check, by the time your article, whatever, what's called, association of article, whatever rubbish comes, we have told you that I think you are not meant to spend more than 10% of your annual profit on dividend. All the others should be plowed back in because you are earning salary. So what are you dividending? I think as a matter of fact, we even say if you not pay dividends to yourself till the third year. So that the company begin work first before they begin kill them. Make sense? Pay the dividend. Next, non-participative preference shares. So non-participative is one of the best preference shares you can get. From the day we invested, we agreed how much dividend you will give me. And make profit too. Make profit too. There is too much profit too. Not too much profit too. Who matter?
Our agreement is for this 200 million I gave you, you will pay me dividend of 2 million every year for life. That was our agreement. So whether you made 50 billion profit, I don't get from it. I just get that 2M, Oton. Does that make sense? So see, I'm not going to say this for wicked. Don't argue this one, they're like, okay. That's a good people that they find. Next. Yes. Directors from day one get ordinary shares. Remember that all these preference shareholders don't own the company. So the day the director moves from ordinary to any of these, they have lost ownership. Next, redeemable preference shares. So redeemable preference shares is a unique kind of share that tells the company, I want you to pay me my dividend after 10 years. So you can see the difference between this and cumulative. In cumulative, they were not told. In redeemable, there is a time agreed at the beginning. Pay me my dividend after 20 years. It is agreed. Then the final one, which is one of the most beautiful ones. Convertible preference shares. From the name, convert, Abi. You can change it from preference to ordinary based on agreement, on time and how. So I can buy a convertible preference shares. It means you have agreed that at some point I will have ordinary shares with your company. At some point we must have ordinary shares. Any question? You pay. He said, what if you told the company, you told the person, I will pay you your dividend after 10 years, and the company just carry loss upon loss upon loss? You go pay. Your wise thing to do is close the company after 9 years.
What's that dividend?
Eh? It's okay, you are a loss, there is nothing to pay. Just show them loss. Say Kosovo. But if it is, what's the other one that you have agreed on what to pay? Non-participatory. If it is non-participatory, participative preference shares, you must still pay it. Because there's an agreement on what to pay. But one of the most investors will ask you for convertible preference shares. Most. Because they want to own your company if it is doing well. Why do I just keep getting when I can own? Want to own. Yes.
Before that 5 years or 10 years, you have been the company has filed bankruptcy and
What's the law? If you file bankruptcy, you don't even know of bankruptcy.
nothing they get.
Bankruptcy means the company is dead. Company went out there, where you want to draw money from? Company till law now, till law. Like, your money has gone. What if? Yes. Once it has been accepted, they've declared bankruptcy, your suing is void. They have, yes, but what I'm saying is, once the government has accepted their bankruptcy filing, they are dead. So even if you go back and check loopholes and say, one parole, put the law. Good question. His question is, right now all of you are broke, and you all have the same amount of shares. As a big boy, he gets home and decides, okay, I want to pump money into my company to make this your company is rich. Can he increase his number of shares? Remember, when it comes to vote, you have equal votes. They all have to vote to agree, not just because you have money.
So who has the authority to accept that the company has declared bankruptcy?
Who has the
authority to declare a company?
To agree that you have declared bankruptcy? Yeah. Who has the authority? Which court? Is the court itself who made you? I'm trying to find a way to ask it to make sense. Who made your company legal? CAC under the power of the court. So what the people that we say now you are dead? CAC under the power of the court. Does that make sense? You cannot declare bankruptcy when you are owing tax. Government Oniba. What's your tax? No, first your tax, then you now start showing your financials to show that you can no longer run.
We that were putting our money, what you are
They are bankrupt. No, but see it this way. If a company like OPay says they go bankrupt, for OPay to operate, OPay, most commercial banks, aviation companies and all of that, there is an amount of money that the government compulsorily makes them keep in bonds. So that if they go bankrupt, the government will liquidate that thing into cash. However, those with preference shares are paid first. Now, this is where it is bad. You saved money in the bank. You don't have shares. So when the company files for bankruptcy, it is shareholders that needs to be settled, not you. Man, relax. Open not a close them. Because next thing now we go to deep one hole tomorrow. This same man don't go hide money. So because you all own equal shares, is it possible somebody wants to buy shares and there is no share to sell? Yes. So what do? Number one, you can increase the share for the company to have shares to sell. Number two, you can talk within yourselves to all contribute part of your shares. So all of you can decide to say we all have to 200. Let's drop 50, 50, 50, 50 and sell to this person. Option three, if we have time, we get there, you can dilute the shares. They call that share dilution. So you dilute the share, then you sell, but you still have what you had.